Pusher is back after he escapes from custody. Mulder and Scully are hot on his trail.
As the case progresses, Mulder has a suspicion that something else is at play.
This is not happening.
What we do know is that the last confirmed bed check was 2:04 a.m. As of 6:14 a.m., the subject was reported escaped. Since then, there have been no further sightings or contact.
How did this man make his way out of the building?
Every indication is he simply walked out the front door. Due to the unique nature of this investigation, the FBI will head the manhunt. The Marshals Service will lend their much welcomed expertise and will coordinate all their efforts with myself or my two designated SACs, Agents Mulder and Scully. They apprehended the subject the first time around. Agent Mulder?
The subject's name is Robert Patrick Modell. He's a serial killer responsible for at least 17 murders. Specifically, he targets law enforcement. In 1996, he caused the death of an FBI agent and a Loudoun County Sheriff's deputy. It was all a game to him. He was looking for, in his words, a worthy adversary.
To win makes him feel important. He likes to think of himself as a Ronin, a warrior without a master, adhering to the Budo, the Japanese way of war. In truth, he's a highly intelligent sociopath who has no fear of dying. In keeping with his game archetype, he likes to leave clues. This is why we expect to be contacted by him, hopefully sooner rather than later.
We fully expect him to pick up exactly where he left off.
What did you mean before when you said he just walked out the building?
Modell refers to himself as Pusher. Technically speaking, all of his victims' wounds were self-inflicted. This man has a unique ability to force his will upon others, to push his victims into hurting or killing themselves.
Say what?
Okay, look, this is all you need to know. Do not trust this man. Do not talk to him. Do not engage him in conversation. Even if he is unarmed, approach him only with extraordinary caution and then only with adequate backup.
So what's adequate backup?
Adequate backup? Every cop you can lay your hands on.
All right, today we are covering Kitsunegari, the much anticipated sequel to Pusher.
Should we review, just real quick, review the, season 3 episode this is based on? Or?
What do you mean? Like, do the whole thing? I thought you meant give a recap. I was like, we can do a recap if you want. No. I'm
just kidding. I know that it would take a little while in and of itself, but just imagine kind of a better version of the episode we're about to review.
Well, getting right into it, I think the episode picks up where Pusher kind of left off. It is a sequel I don't know that fans were clamoring for at the time, but it was always exciting to see Robert Wisden back in action as Pusher.
Oh, absolutely. And I agree with your conceit that this is the sequel no one was really expecting. I gather that this is based on a script by, the writers in the script are Vince Gilligan and Tim Minear, and the original script was conceived by Minear, but it didn't have anything to do with Robert Modell. It was just about a guy who had voices in his head, and he thought they were from God, and there's a script in there. And it was Frank Spotnitz who suggested that they should revive Modell, and they completely changed it up, and I think at that point they paired Minear with Vince Gilligan, and that's where this comes from. So there's a lot of really good stuff in this script. I just feel like, I'll get into this a little later, but there's just too much.
Fair enough.
I just feel like they packed way too much into it. And if there was more time, it would have been a lot better.
Yeah, I can understand that completely.
As you had said before we recorded, I think you put it really nicely to say that there is a great episode in here. They just had to make choices which kind of really cut them off at the ankles.
Yeah. So we open with a walking wheel. This is physical therapy. They do a very small effort to hide who is actually being helped here. I guess depending on how they marketed this episode, they wanted to keep it a secret for at least 2 minutes into the episode that it was Pusher. We've got two corrections officers kind of overseeing this therapy session. One's younger, he's new. An older guy's showing him the ropes, and he keeps telling him to not trust this guy. He's a cop killer. Never let your guard down around him. And
always keep your pepper spray handy.
Yeah, they've got their pepper spray. We learn it is Lorton Penitentiary Hospital ward. Everything seems in order. So then we get a fade to later on in the evening.
Oh, but
And-
come on, there's our big reveal of Modell as they wheel him back to his cell.
Well, all right, fine.
But this is it in 1998. I mean, even the episode description in the wiki is like, an influential killer. I think they probably were trying to sneak it up on us. And he gets his big reveal through the cell block doors.
Yeah, he gets his reveal through the door. They put him away for the night. The younger guard, of course, is on duty, and he reacts to a red flashing light down the hall. There's an alert for Modell's room. He goes to investigate, and he unlocks his pepper spray from his hip.
Mm-hmm.
And we see Modell is kind of rhythmically tapping the button. And then he begins to whisper, which anyone who saw Pusher knows this is not a good thing. Anytime he opens his mouth, people are susceptible to killing themselves or some other terrible thing. The young guard leans in to hear what he's saying, and then we get a cutaway as you can kind of see in his eyes that something's happening.
Oh, he's somewhere else, yeah.
Yeah. So it cuts back, and the older guard is showing up, presumably for maybe another shift or coming back later on in the evening. He notices the guard shack is empty, and he rushes to Modell's cell. And there he finds no Modell, and the younger guard kind of curled up against a wall and kind of banging his head against a wall gently. And when he asks where Modell is, he says he had to go. And we get credits.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite tropes in this episode is
He had to
repeat
go.
of he had to go. So as usual, I have some questions
Shoot.
at this point. All right.
Not a good sign.
Well,
Pre-credits, Andrew.
listen, in previous episodes, I had pages of questions. I only have 2 at this point, and I don't what if the heck out of this one. So, and that's usually a good sign that it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
It's going to be all right.
All right. So, would the FBI not have briefed the heck out of this institution regarding Modell because of the hell that he put them through and got to this point? Like, they know his power. So, like, would they not have made special accommodation for how they're going to treat this guy? Give them all ear protectors, make it so you cannot hear what he's saying. Give him a muzzle. I don't know. Like, look at Hannibal Lecter, how the restraints they put this guy into, and his superpower is talking as well, right?
Right. Good point. Yeah. I mean, I think that would have been a good idea. I'm not going to say that the episode necessarily suffers for it, because honestly, in the real world, them kind of briefing new people, this is probably how it would go. Just watch yourself around this guy.
And I get that maybe he has not been a problem. Well, he was in a coma up to this point. So I guess maybe
2 years at this point.
Yeah, he won't be an issue because he's in a coma, and then he wasn't in a coma, and maybe it flew under the radar.
And it's different. It's going to be, in my head, this is how it's going. Anyone who works there just thinks he's a murderer or a cop killer. They'd have no belief in the supernatural aspect of this, but this guy does. The older guy, he says, don't trust him at all. He knows and understands, but the general consensus around the hospital or prison, if you will, is probably that he's just another serial killer.
Yeah. Okay. So I accept your answer. My second and only other question at this point, I am concerned about Chuck, younger guard protege
Cupcake?
Chuck. Cupcake Chuck, yes.
No, he plays one of the only reason.
Canonically, in this episode,
he has a bit part in the 2009 Star Trek movie where he plays the security officer that Chris Pine calls Cupcake.
Oh, in that Star Trek. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of another Star Trek security officer. Okay. Cool. All right. So what happens to this guy now? Is he going to get fired? I mean, how does this roll out for this guy?
I would think no. I mean,
you get one escape on your record.
And then after that, I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. After that, we have to have a review. The first one's free.
The first one's free. Unfortunately, maybe, he'd probably get fired. But in the perfect everyone knows who Pusher is world, I think he gets a pass because everyone else does in this episode.
But they they don't buy his ability, right? You just said that in this institution.
I'm just throwing hypothetical situations.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, I feel good for Chuck now. All right.
Poor Cupcake. So from the credits, we go directly into the briefing. The FBI is on the case. Thankfully, we get Skinner in this episode more than the last time. Always love a good Skinner episode. Mm-hmm. He's briefing the U.S. Marshals, and we see Mulder and Scully kind of standing behind him. And then he introduces them as their chief liaisons.
They certainly flag the shotgun as a big part of the image. And I guess that's meant to tell us that things are serious, that they have drawn weapons and they are all tense.
They're all on guard here.
In Canada, we don't use guns that way. We use them for shooting moose.
I don't work in the corrections, aspect of our society, but they are technically coming off a lockdown. I would imagine that's still in place. One of their prisoners escaped. So maybe that requires all guns on every officer to be drawn at all times.
And held in a menacing way. Yeah, I'd buy that for sure.
Skinner introduces Mulder and Scully, and they basically give the U.S. Marshals a rundown of who Pusher is. And they even use the name Pusher and what his capabilities are. And when Mulder's kind of questioned as to if he's on crack for saying what he's saying about how he can make people kill themselves, Mulder's just like, look, everyone on deck when this guy is in your sights, don't approach him, don't talk to him, but he's very, very dangerous just by talking to you. So that's where the episode starts.
I have an issue. Okay, now I will say that I do like the setup before I get into my issue, but I do like the setup of how they lay out not only in the briefing how the manhunt is going to go. What they're doing for the audience is they're laying out how the episode is, quote unquote, supposed to go. It's going to be Pusher Rampage Part 2. He's going to go out and he's going to do a little cat and mouse game. He's going to leave some clues. There are going to be some dead bodies. We're going to have this again. That's kind of what they're baiting the audience with of, this is what the episode's going to be about. And I like that because it does turn, relatively soon and prompt us to go, well, wait a second, this is different. So it's intriguing that way.
Right.
My issue, first of all, is why does he name Modell? Like, did these marshals arrive with zero information? They're like, everybody just show up to the corrections. There's an escaped prisoner. And then they're like, all right, the guy's name's Modell. I figured they would have gotten a little bit of information before they showed up.
No,
but
you're wrong.
Okay.
You're just wrong.
I'm just wrong. They arrived cold. You don't want to spook the marshals with information.
They get choppered in whenever there's a problem.
I like that. Okay. But at the end where, to your point, where he says, look, when you see this guy, just have adequate backup, don't approach him, don't do this. The plan for how they're going to deal with Modell, like a lot of X-Files plans, is lacking. It's just like, have a lot of cops with you. That should do it.
If I were running this, I'd be handing out Apple AirPods. All right, guys, here you go. Yes. Everyone gets a pair.
Here are your complimentary earmuffs. Wear them at all times. We'll communicate with hand signals.
They got smiley
and don't
faces
hesitate
on
to
them.
shoot him in the face.
Okay. So after the briefing, Scully and Mulder have their little one-on-one time. And the point of this scene is to show Scully's concern. She says, Mulder, you're right. He's going to pick up where he left off. And where does that put you? Because as we all know, at the end of Pusher, Modell was keyed in on Mulder to the point of playing a game of Russian roulette, essentially. So she's concerned that he will pick up where he left off. And where does that put Mulder? And for the first time of many in this episode, Mulder walks away in the middle of a conversation. They're already at some sort of odds. Mulder knows and feels he should be on the case, and she's concerned for his well-being. So we cut to a sporting goods store, and there's a clerk watching a news broadcast about the escaped prisoner Modell. And the man is shocked when he turns his eyes to the door, and Modell is actually entering his store. As he approaches the counter, the clerk tries to be a little sneaky and reaches for a bat he's got behind the counter. But Modell says, aren't you afraid of snakes? And he looks down and he's holding a timber rattler now. Classic Modell. He's fucking with someone. And the person automatically believes whatever Modell is telling them. The clerk thinks he's holding a snake, and Modell tells him how to get rid of it, which is basically to delicately and quietly walk to the back and whatever. So
I got to say, for 98, it's a great effect. Like, do you actually think that's a real snake? Because the snake does this lunge that I think would be pretty hazardous.
Yeah. Poor Todd is terrified.
So I'm thinking it's CGI, and if it's CGI, it's actually really good for 98.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So yeah, and poor Todd he doesn't really have much of a chance here, does he? He's just completely under Modell's spell at this point.
Yeah, as soon as Modell opens his mouth, he's kind of got this spell cast over him.
And really, all he wants is the carbo bars. He doesn't want anything else.
That's all he wants.
Maybe make a phone call.
So after this scene, Todd has easily compromised and dealt with. Modell also sees Mulder and Scully on the TV in the sporting goods shop. We cut back to the prison, and Mulder and Scully are talking to the physical therapist who was helping Modell in the beginning.
I've been faking it completely, that's all I can say. The gunshot wound did a hell of a lot of damage. You're the officer that shot him.
It says here that Modell had a visitor yesterday afternoon.
Who?
It's marked LSC.
Little Sisters of Charity. They try to visit all the hospitalized inmates.
Did Modell ever get any other visitors besides the Little Sisters of Charity?
Not that I know of. He didn't have much in the way of family. He was raised in foster homes mostly.
Sounds like you got to know him pretty well.
He never gave me any grief. He worked hard at getting better. I'd talk to him sometimes.
About what?
Small talk, nothing important. He'd ask how I was.
He's a very considerate man.
I don't doubt for a second Robert Modell belongs in prison. But I never had any problem with him personally.
Agents, it's Modell.
Yeah.
2 words. It's alive.
I don't feel like playing your game right now, Modell.
Touchy. Look, Mulder, there's something I need you to hear.
Tell it to me in person, Modell.
No, seriously. Listen to me.
No, you listen to me. Either you come back here on your own or I drag your sorry ass back on the bumper of my car.
Time. 10 more seconds.
When did you turn into Clint Eastwood?
Don't let him rope you in.
Now stop talking like a tough guy and pay attention. I know you're tracing this call. I don't care. I have something
Mulder, hang up the phone.
I need you to hear. Mulder, are you going to...
I saw that it was Mulder who, is very conscious of the amount of time required and consciously makes that decision to stop it, which I think is a great callback to Pusher
Burst,
where the cop, essentially is death by heart attack propelled by Pusher.
Christ.
Well, exactly. And that's what I think what we're meant to call back to is this where Mulder's going to get it? And Scully is obviously thinking about that too, because she's thinking, this is the setup that Modell is going to have his revenge on you. Do not continue to be on this phone call.
Yeah. And Mulder's playing it pretty tough. He tells him he's going to drag him back on the bumper of his car, which is big ballsy of Mulder.
But no, I liked the scene, and it's awfully tense. Nicely done.
Yeah, they ramped the tension up pretty quick in this episode.
I wanted to call back to the physiotherapist. There's a name drop, well, a concept drop, I suppose, which is really good. And I like to think that this episode is better on the rewatch than it would have been on the first viewing, just because there's so much that they drop in there that makes sense later. The fact that the nun that comes to visit Modell is from the Little Sisters of Charity. I mean, it's right there in the name, Little Sister. She everything about her heist here, her hoax or not her hoax, but her plan is so on the nose, and that's literally going to be how Mulder describes it later on. So the fact that she's representing the Little Sisters of Charity, I mean, that's either the writers tweaking their nose at the characters or...
Yeah, they're having a little bit of fun with it,
I
for
think
sure.
so. But it's a nice touch.
But he hangs up the phone. They manage to get a trace much faster than poor Burst was able to. So they rush to the sports store, and they see someone walking in the middle of the street with the Department of Corrections clothing on, and they rush up to him. Mulder grabs him by the shoulder and turns him around, and it's Todd.
Yeah. There's a nice callback to the carbo bars because Mulder finds the wrapper for the carbo bars. I think in Pusher, he has that too, right? He has to eat a lot of carbs or something, lots of calories to support his habit.
Carbo boost or something.
So I think that's a nice callback too. And it's obviously a tweak to Mulder going, hey, there's a clue here. And the second use of he had to go. I mean, you've got to call that out.
Yep, really I was just going to say, when they turn around, they ask him where he went, and they say he had to go.
Yeah. So does Todd get fired?
Well, he only lost a couple carbo bars, maybe a box.
Comes out of his salary, though.
Yeah, 1 bar a week, I think.
Todd's boss is like, Todd, I'm not made of money. You can't give those bars away. I don't care if it's a serial killer. I mean, God.
He made me.
Do you know how the store works? We work on a profit, Todd. That's where your salary comes from.
Poor Todd. This is his first job.
It's the first day.
First day, even. Yeah.
Todd, this is where we keep the baseball bat for the problem customers.
So from the scene on the street, we cut to a house, and there's blue paint everywhere. And then we see a man covered in blue paint.
Oh, but we also see Robert, sort of Modell's reflection in that picture.
Yep.
And it's a really nice little camera angle. I think it's worth pointing out.
Definitely. They're leaving little clues to keep Modell as our prime suspect for the viewer. As you're watching this for the first time, did you feel anything that was off at this point?
There was definitely more malice in season 3 Pusher than there is here. But I did get the sense that there is another story here that we're not privy to yet. Like this, there is something going on, and I think I almost got that too when Modell is asking Mulder, I want you to hear something. The turn of phrase,
that's kind of what
the turn of phrase is weird because it does make it sound like I'm going to implant a psychic suggestion in you, as opposed to just I need to tell you that this is not what you think it is. Right? I could have just said that, and then we'd be good. But the plot kind of demands it goes this way, and I'm okay with that. That's kind of how I'll put it.
Yeah. Good stuff. So we come back from commercial. The man is covered in paint.
Yeah.
It is cerulean blue, which is a callback to Pusher, which is a nice little murder for the fans of the show. And there is writing all over the wall in apparently Japanese. Because the only way to decipher this, they must bring in a Japanese American agent,
right?
And she can read it for them.
Nobody else can speak Japanese or read
automatically.
Japanese. Yeah,
that's what you do.
Yeah,
and they can all speak that apparently. She identifies it as a phrase, Kitsunegari, which means fox hunt. And
apparently, that word did not actually exist in Japanese, and they made it for the show. Or maybe probably fox and hunt exist, but it turns out the Japanese did not have an elaborate sport where on horseback they chase dogs which chase a fox. They had other sports. They had sumo wrestling. They're investigating the house, and Mulder keys in on the phone that has a blue fingerprint next to a woman's name named Linda. So he takes this as a clue, and they call. It's a realty company, and that Mrs. Bowman, the wife of the man who's been killed, Nathan, she has gone to meet her next client, and the client is named as Fox Mulder. Dun, dun, dun. So who is this secretary? Because I think she's getting fired. Yeah, you can't just give out that information, can you? Well, sure you can, if you're her. If you're her. There's a lot of people getting fired in this episode. Totally. I'd like to see the performance review on this. It's like, and you just gave out my home address too? I mean, come on, Debbie. What if it was a stalker or a psycho serial killer, which in fact it was? Where's Linda? Oh, she's at... Yeah. But I couldn't not tell where you went. Right. So we cut to a warehouse. There's a patrol car that pulls up before anyone else arrives. There are 2 police officers in there. They walk into this kind of abandoned factory looking place. Yeah, warehouse of some kind, I think. Guns drawn, flashlights, and they hear Modell's voice kind of summoning them. They decided that they needed to split up because they knew they were in a horror movie. There's that motion they make too, right? Like, I'll check upstairs, you go that way. Yeah, okay, that's a great idea. Whereas realistically, it'd be like, oh, well, I'm not going off on my own. What, are you crazy?
Mm-hmm.
But the plot demands it, and it's all right.
Right. So they split up, and the camera is following one of them. We hear Modell's voice guiding him. Hey, I'm over here, straight in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And we see Modell shows himself. He points a gun at the officer. The officer basically does his thing, gets him to put his hands up, drop the gun. Modell complies, and he lies face down on the ground. And then this is when everyone else arrives. So the camera cuts to that. They enter the warehouse, rush to the police officer who's already there. And when they find him, he has actually apprehended his partner. So, more Modell stuff. This guy's getting fired too.
Well, you know I was going to ask.
I was preemptive.
Yeah. So this is pretty elaborate. And I'll say on the review, my first thought was, is this in fact Linda Bowman fucking with them? But I think it is in fact Modell.
It's Modell.
Yeah. And it is,
I would say,
it is an elaborate plan to connect, to get Mulder there so he can have his conversation with Mulder. But it's too much. Like they could have done this any other number of ways, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm going to visit Fox at his hotel room or something, you know?
Yeah, because I don't know why they felt like they needed to have Modell leave his mark on something to make it more interesting, I guess.
They wanted vintage pusher. Yeah, they wanted to bring that
they wanted it to happen the way it would have happened in the last episode, or to give the viewer visuals and experiences that we are familiar with to kind of make us believe maybe that he's still up to his old tricks. But yeah, it is kind of a flimsy way to get Mulder there. It's a little convoluted.
Well, and I like the playfulness. Like, this is a standout scene for him, you know, where he's baiting the cop and, you know, I have to draw you a map. You know, that is a good little sequence, and I dig it. I just think that, again, what if, like, cop comes around the corner and sees Modell with a gun, he could have shot him. Exactly. And then you've got dead cop, and it's like, okay, that didn't go quite how I thought it was going to go, you know?
Yeah. I understand.
Yeah.
It's a little too much for just giving Mulder a piece of information.
And plus, it's like he then sort of flees the building, and everyone shows up, and we got the big reveal of the cop having arrested the other cop. And it's like, well, Mulder could have just left along with them, but instead he's, you know, Modell has put himself in this other building, and he's counting on the fact that Mulder is going to sort of search around.
Yeah, that's a little too convenient.
Yeah.
Like who says Mulder goes into that building
That's
first?
right. You know,
So getting back to this scene, you know, everything's not Modell. So Mulder begins to search around. He leaves the initial warehouse and kind of goes across the way, and he notices another rapper right inside the doorway.
Yep.
Linda Bowman shows up. Mulder approaches her, and they cut to an interview. They're trying to get how she was in contact with this person, Modell. He didn't leave a number. She asks why someone would do this to Nathan, her husband. Scully asks her about Modell, and she knows that it was her husband's biggest case. And they inform her that he has, in fact, escaped, which is why they believe he killed her husband.
Mm-hmm.
She's distraught. She's in shock. But it does, to the viewers, seem like she's very knowledgeable about Modell.
I buy it, though, because she has explained it as, you know, this was Nathan's biggest case. And, you know, you can imagine he shared it with her. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly didn't suspect her. I thought it was it was well played, well acted. You know, they clearly are not directing their attention at her.
Skinner places her in protective custody, and Mulder asks Scully why he didn't kill the cops. This doesn't feel right to Mulder.
Mm-hmm.
This is our first indication that, with Mulder and his track record of being right, that something is maybe not the way we think it's going.
I like that he calls it out as something not making sense, because I like it when characters sort of remark on things that I'm thinking.
Right.
Modell wasn't killing people like he would have in Pushers. So, you know, these kind of breadcrumbs kind of creeping up and starting to tip the scales for Mulder. And he is now announcing for the audience that something is not up here. That does track with your more perceptive viewers.
Yep. One of the explanations Scully proffers is that maybe he just didn't have the energy. Maybe his tumor was acting up. You know, he had already expended so much energy, as they've seen previously.
Right.
This will wear him out. And Mulder still has this feeling that it's just not making sense.
Yeah.
At this point, we see that Modell has been watching them from a nearby building. He's eating one of his power bars, and Mulder happens, like we mentioned, happens to be walking up to this building because it's on the property of where the cops are in the warehouse. Yep. And he notices a rapper just inside the doorway. He unholsters his weapon. He's on high alert. And he starts searching the building.
He does a little tactical clearing.
Yep, sure enough, he finds Modell in a hall, just standing there. He does not look well.
Yeah.
Took you so long. Scully, I got him. Come quick.
Where are you, Mulder?
Hold on. North side of Channel, second floor, some kind of company, some engineering company.
We need to talk.
Shut up, Modell.
Mulder, listen
I
to
said
me.
shut up.
There's something I need you.
Shut up or I will shoot you, you son of a bitch.
Mulder.
I will shoot you. Shut up.
You're going to listen to me. You're going to listen to me, Mulder.
I will shoot you.
Listen. Mulder.
Mulder, what happened? Where's Modell?
He had to go.
There's something in the way he conveys it that's giving us the idea that this is not Pusher Part 2. You know, this there's another subplot at play here. And, you know, with Mulder having announced it, it kind of feeds nicely into that. But I think it's a credit to the actor, you know, to be able to sing us that line in a way which makes it go, wait a second, there's something up there.
If there's one shining thing about this episode, like it or not, love it or not, it's Robert Wisden. He's so good in his role.
Oh, it's a great role.
It's just a pleasure to watch him.
Yep.
Yeah, he can make even the smallest stuff seem really good. But yes, so he gets Mulder to listen. Mulder, during this confrontation, had called in reinforcements. And by the time they get there, he had to go. And we get a commercial.
So is Mulder fired then?
No, well, he's Mulder. No.
I guess they get a lot of shit, but they don't get fired.
How do you explain that? I mean, yeah, we don't have to go into it.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Skinner. I didn't mean it.
I didn't know what I was doing.
So we come back from commercial, and Mulder is humiliated. And he says that Modell wanted to get this message across to him. Don't play the game. He does not think it's Modell's game. And Scully thinks he's losing it.
So my initial take on this was I was very skeptical. I was very roll my eyes at the writers. Because again, he could have just said, it's not me. You know, it's this is not what you think it is. Or, you know, he could have laid it all out. But then...
Well,
sorry.
No, I'm with you. But I think my only counter to that is he is trying to protect Linda. So he can't just be like, it's not me, it's her. But she's going to keep doing what she's doing. So
exactly. I think he's trying to protect Mulder. I think he's trying
It's a little both, I think. I think he's done doing...
I think he's trying to engineer a situation where he can take the fall for what Linda has done. Like, in other words, why is he leaving prison at all? So I think probably Linda told him, I'm going to kill Nathan, you know, for what he did to you. And I'm going to get Mulder and Scully as well. And he's probably thinking, no, I don't want that. Or, you know, Mulder won fair and square and I'm going to accept my fate kind of thing. Because she does call him the conquered warrior later on. Mm-hmm. And I think she's like, no, I'm not going to allow that. And so that sort of prompts him to act. I've got to leave. I have to go. I've got to go and stop her, but yet stop her in a way which saves her. So it's a very interesting little thing. Like, how do I push Mulder to do what I need him to do, but don't just kill him? You know, don't just engineer it so that everybody is burning and then Linda gets to be saved. So it's interesting.
It's convoluted.
Yeah, it's a little convoluted. It's definitely convoluted. But on reflection, again, better on the rewatch, I appreciate how they've done it. And more importantly, that it sets up this seed of doubt in Scully and Skinner's minds about Mulder's state of mind. That is the thing I like the most about it is, you know, how can you really know that what you're thinking is your own idea?
Mm-hmm. And that's awesome because we know how Modell works, and the simple fact that he could say anything and Mulder or whoever would technically believe it. So Mulder feeling that Modell is not the guy at this time.
Yeah.
The only real defense he has is, why didn't he make me eat a bullet? He could have. Why didn't he kill the cops? Why is he pursuing Linda? Because that's the only thing that's making sense right now.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only thing that lines up. And Scully's just very, very concerned about him. He's been compromised in her eyes.
I think so. Yeah, that's what she's thinking at this point.
And we go to a second interview of Linda. This is where she says Nathan was so proud of prosecuting this case, and she's very forthcoming with all this information. Scully, interestingly enough for me, kind of keys in on that she has a lot of information about this already.
I think, though, that's explained away by the idea that this was Nathan's big case.
Yeah.
Except, of course, when she then drops the nugget that they've been married for exactly 2 months. I'm like, wait a second. You just talked about it for 2 months then? You know, every day for 2 months? Let me tell you.
Yeah, her marriage, her marriage to Nathan was quick, within days.
I mean, there's the giant red flag right there.
And then, you know, when you just know, you know.
Yeah.
And Mulder says he was true blue.
Oh, yeah.
He's already keyed in. He understands what's happening here.
Camera like cues right on Mulder, and there's that pause as he sort of twerks his neck, and it's like, what did you just say? Did you just say that to me?
His brush with greatness.
Yeah. So I'm going to harp on this later, but I just wanted more of that. In your face, everybody thinks I'm innocent, but you know I'm guilty. Kind of cat and mouse. We just got such a taste of it in this scene and this scene alone. And then the episode is basically over. And I just feel like there's an interesting villain here right here, but we never get to see this. It's not teased out in a satisfying way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So yeah, after the interview, Mulder just straight up says it to Scully. First thing, she killed Nathan Bowman. What?
There's the superpower right in play, and he's about to dive into why.
But he points out good things. Like, does she seem particularly afraid to you? She's supposedly being hunted by a serial killer. She has not shown the slightest bit of interest in how her husband died. They say she's in shock, blah, blah, blah. That's the usual stuff. And Scully is just like, no, you've been affected.
If there wasn't enough doubt in our minds as viewers, like, because... I mean, essentially when Mulder's converted, we the viewers are converted, right? Like there isn't really that seated out there in the viewer's minds, which again, I think would have made this a bit more interesting if there was that level of, is Mulder maybe just off his meds? The fact that she isn't reacting like normal people react to tragedy, I in the 90s, I think it would be easier to go, oh, well, clearly, you know, Mulder's right. You know, it doesn't matter if she's in shock. She should be reacting this way. I think a more modern viewpoint is that, yes, people react to tragedy in a variety of different ways, and you cannot just say because she's not crying her head off, you know, that she's guilty in some way. Like, she could be in shock. And I like that they addressed that here, except that, of course, because Mulder knows, we know.
Yeah. So, yeah, Scully is very convinced that he's been affected. She tells him, you even said so yourself, do not trust Modell, and you've done exactly that. Skinner, at this point, suspends Mulder.
So he does get fired.
And asks him to surrender his weapon until he feels he's ready and of sound mind. And this is the second walk-off we get from Mulder. I'll prove it to you guys.
But not before, and this is the best little screw to the stomach when she walks out and says, can I have something to drink?
Fetch her some water.
God. It's like maybe some blue paint. You know, it's just so, it's just such a nice little moment that they have, like, and they could have really dragged it out if you really wanted to paint her as the villain at this point. But it's just a nice little, I liked that moment. Yep.
Yeah, it's a good moment. And Mulder is very upset at this point. He knows what he knows. The two people he relies on the most think he's lost it at this point.
He's compromised.
So we cut to the Department of Corrections. Mulder is talking to the doctor again, the physical therapist. Has he said anything remarkable, anything at all? She remembers a little sister of Charity is the most frequent visitor. She's visited a few times, and she once called him a conquered warrior, which she thought was interesting. It kind of stuck in her mind. And he shows her a picture of Linda Bowman and asks if it's her. But before she can answer, of course, there's a phone call.
Oh, she's got to get her glasses. I'm blind as a bat without these, yeah.
Blind as a bat.
Looks like a young Candace Bergen. I don't know.
Yeah. So once she gets the phone call, Mulder's caught in the lurch, just waiting for her to finish. I will say that something felt off for me the first time I saw this, where all of her acknowledgments of the other end of the phone, we can't hear it, but she's, and things started to, I was like, uh-oh, something's going on here.
Well, I'm curious about it, though. At what point did you pivot from this is a work call to she's about to die call?
I think there's after when you get to like maybe the fourth, okay, something's weird because it's the only, first of all, it's the only thing you're hearing. Second of all, we know kind of the idea behind Pusher and something just, she's walking towards an electrical box, for God's sake.
Well,
so it's like
the minute for me, the minute the camera shows us the giant, probably not to code electrical panel, I'm like, oh, she's goner. But before that, I just was thinking, oh, okay, this is a weirdly inconvenient phone call. But I wasn't thinking that she's about to die, and it's a bit tenuous that, she was just about to identify Linda Bowman and then she got, electrocuted. I feel like that could have happened at any time, but maybe Linda Bowman's smart enough to realize that's where Mulder's going and I gotta close the loop on this.
It's a good scene though. Once Mulder kind of realizes what's happening, he sees her opening the electrical box. He immediately knows what's happening.
Yeah.
He runs to get a mop so he can save her without having to touch her, basically.
Yeah.
He's too late. She electrocutes herself with her hand right on the wires there.
Yeesh.
That's a way to go.
Yeah. Well done, I would say.
It's a tense scene.
And still vague enough. Again, I wish they had made it more vague in the sense we're not clear on whether Mulder's in fact compromised or not. Like there's enough there that I'm pretty sure at this point I'm like, oh yeah, I believe Mulder. The evidence is there.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of wish there wasn't because the circumstances allow that it could have been Modell. He could have been the one to call because he's been in that physiotherapy room how many times,
Right.
But,
and he would know the number, possibly.
Exactly. He's smart enough to figure it out. So, but I never thought about Modell being anything other than, ancillary to this murder plot.
Yeah. So, commercial. And we open back up on a guard at the safe house where Linda's being kept. I do want to point out this is the U.S. Marshal that was questioning what Mulder meant.
Of course.
When Mulder said, don't trust this guy, anything he says, blah, blah, blah. Modell strolls up in a patrol car.
That's the nicest touch.
It looks like he's in custody. Yeah. But the other police officer doesn't say anything. Or he peers in and Modell rolls down the window and tells him to go home. He just says, go home. And of course,
go home. Yeah.
The camera tightens up on his face and we know what happened.
He's going home. He's getting fired.
Yeah, he's getting fired. And Modell now has access to Linda.
I don't know if you could roll down the windows in a cop car.
I don't think so.
I'd like to think that he maybe said, Bobby, roll down the windows, will you?
Turn off the baby lock.
Yeah. Just hand me your shotgun for a minute, will you? So this is where he arrives at the safe house and goes in and has his intervention with Linda, or at least their meaningful glance.
Yeah, their meaningful glance. We don't get any dialogue here, but he enters her little safe house and they exchange glances. And then we cut to Mulder on the phone with Scully. She's arriving somewhere. And he's still with the dead physical therapist. He tells her exactly what happened. He tells her no one's picking up the phone at the safe house switchboard and that they need to cut off Linda's access to a phone because now there's another dead person. Even though she doesn't believe him, she's like, okay, no one's answering at the switchboard. We gotta go.
I have a problem with this pickup with them at the mall. They're at the mall because they're investigating a suicide at the mall. And when you think about it, you can tease out, okay, this is probably, they've been alerted to some suspicious death and they're thinking Modell's been involved and maybe Modell's in the mall because this happened.
Yep.
But I wish they would have let her drop those nuggets, because it sounds like that this is what the FBI and the marshals do. They go to malls and investigate suicides.
There's been a suicide. We got to go.
Exactly, right? Like it reminds me of Christmas Carol, you know, when it's like, it's the hot case in town. There's been a suicide. We all got to go and you know, document the scene.
Yeah, we're not investigating Modell anymore. We got the suicide
There's
case.
the suicide at the Park Mall. We got to go visit it. Just listen, we'll be right back to the safe house. But yeah, I do get that turns on, you know, him saying nobody's picking up the switchboard, and then she's like, oh, okay, well, maybe Modell's there. You know, maybe this suicide thing's been a diversion by Modell to get. So it's probably not her believing that it's Linda Bowman at this point.
She does not believe it.
She thinks that Modell is there, and they got to go back.
Yep. Back at the safe house, apparently, you know, they've gotten word to Skinner. He is searching the safe house. No one is there. He kicks in the door to her room where she's being held supposedly in protective custody, and he finds Modell and Linda there. Modell tells Skinner he had a gun, points it at him, and Skinner fires.
Yep, pops him one.
I do want to point out that Modell calls him Milk Cooley again, which is awesome.
Good callback. It's nice. So it took me a while to understand this bit, that he's essentially serving himself up on a platter to take the heat off of Linda. Mm-hmm. You know, the convenient ending. But I don't know. I still think it's pretty convoluted to get to this point.
It is. We still don't have a clear, honestly, I mean, we can get to that at the end, but it's just very plot heavy for such like a simple idea.
Yeah.
So I'm very much with you on that. When Modell drops, Skinner approaches him. He notices there's no gun in his hand, and he's got the little finger gun.
Yeah, it's a nice little touch.
He's got the little finger gun.
And that look on Skinner's face is like he knows he got took, you know?
Yep.
But
he doesn't want to believe it. You know, it's Skinner.
He had a gun.
In the very next scene, he tells Mulder he had a gun.
Yeah.
I saw it, you know.
I don't know where he's got, you know, where it went. You know, it went down a storm drain or something.
It's somewhere.
It's in evidence.
Got eaten up in the carpet.
Yeah. Search the couch cushions. It flew over there when they shot him.
So Modell's being taken to the hospital. Again, like we just said, Mulder suggested to him that Modell told him he had a gun. And Skinner pushes back. He had it. We just haven't found it.
Now, with Mulder leaving, this is classic Mulder. You know, when he gets pissy and he starts walking away, and it's up to Scully to say, where are you going? You know, anytime Scully says, where are you going? You know, this is the beginning of a new arc where something crazy will happen that she will not see.
Right. And they still don't believe him. He tells them that Modell drew Skinner's fire to protect Linda. And they're still just not, they're not on board with any of this. And
because it's a convoluted plot. They like
it is. I can't really blame them.
Where they got the bad guy.
He walks away and tells Scully to call him when she thinks he's regained himself.
Yeah, which is a interesting little trigger.
It's a little high schooly.
Well, I guess this is it then.
So I'll see you later. Bye. Have a nice night.
She never believed in me. All he needs is to throw the keys at her, right? You know.
I'll tell you what though. If I was Mulder and I knew I was right, I can't say I wouldn't say the same thing.
That's fair.
So Modell is on life support. Mulder's watching him, and a nurse comes in to remove Mulder and tell him she needs to change his bandages. And as soon as Mulder passes her, we see that it's Linda Bowman with the little nurse tag, which is a callback to Pusher when he entered the FBI with a little card on his vest.
A little bit of fan service. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's nice.
I liked it. I do like the callback to the nurse thing. What I don't understand about this is the tracheotomy.
He was shot in the shoulder.
Maybe the bullet ricocheted and went through his throat. My thing is just that the tracheotomy comes out of nowhere. Like, And then they have this weird thing where he can only talk if she puts her finger over, which I guess is a thing.
Yeah, that's a thing.
But then you can't breathe. So it's a tenderness, right? Like I'm controlling your airway. And I get that there is that domination element. Like I can control whether you live or die because you're so weak and I have to do this so you can talk. But if I get that's kind of interesting, but it feels tacked on. I feel like they could have had the scene without that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a neat touch to have her essentially talk him to death, use her mind power to take him out.
She was just yakking his ear off. The man chose death.
I want to talk to you about our relationship.
The monitor. Beep, 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 beep.
Oh, God, just let me have a heart attack.
I know we haven't known each other long, but I really think this is going somewhere.
Anytime our significant others have something to talk to about us, we are sensitive, ready to talk right there with them. So, and sometimes you just got to listen. Sometimes you don't have to say a word. Sometimes you just got to listen.
It is worth noting that Modell tells her, stop now, stop. Now, is that stop what you're doing in relation to the FBI or stop talking because I'm dying?
Or stop pressing my tracheotomy thingy. I use that to breathe.
For God's sake, shut your mouth.
Stop talking.
My tumor hasn't killed me yet. I've got some life.
In the interest of making this a more compelling episode, I want to think that it's stop your plan because after that, she decides to take him out.
I don't think so. I've been convinced.
Oh, God's sake.
I'm so glad I didn't know I had a sister until this moment.
Is this what it would have been like for the last 20 years? Oh.
Jesus.
Yeah.
But yes, it is a very cool scene that she coerces his body to die. Yeah. I think that's a callback to Frank Burst. It's nice. Mm-hmm. It is classic Modell, even if it's not him doing it.
I got to think why this was happening. She's, taking a lie down on his chest and it's very intimate. All I can think about is anybody who passes by this door right now is going to see a nurse in a real comfortable embrace with, this. And I just thought, well, now she's getting fired.
She's getting fired now. Modell is dead now.
He is.
She lays her head on his chest as she talks him to death. And at the front desk, Mulder notices an issue and rushes to his room, but it's too late. Modell's gone. She's gone. But he does find the paper name tag that says nurse on it. And he's like, motherfucker.
And I like that it's the final piece of the puzzle. And more to the point that she's written on the other side the address of the warehouse.
Mm-hmm. And that's cool because it's like, let's have our final showdown.
Yeah. And
it's like her calling him, just.
Yeah. And she knows that he knows that this is what this is all about. And nobody else will really put the pieces together because he's Mulder.
So he drives back to the warehouse.
Yep. He's going to take
and
her
he
out.
hears Scully's voice and rushes to it. She's standing there talking to him. She's pointing her gun at him, and then she points it at herself.
Now, this is also a neat callback to season 3 Pusher, because this idea of I'm being controlled against my will to point a gun at you has been done.
Linda's making her do this. He was right all along.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, she pulls the trigger and kills herself.
And this is where the episode lost me, unfortunately. I wish it was a bit more nuanced. I wish it was she shot herself in the arm, or she's going to, shoot herself a couple of times in the legs, and make it really like, because as soon as she kills herself, you know that this is not what's happening, right? They're not going to write Gillian Anderson out of the episode, out of the series. This is where she meets her end. Not a
got a movie in a couple of months.
Yeah, you'll come. It was just a flesh wound. She'll be back. So the series won't allow her to die. So at this point, there is no doubt anymore, right? Like this is clearly, you can see the bait and switch. So that is my big problem. Is I wish they had not made it so ultimate.
Yeah, I get that. I'm with that. She kills herself. Mulder's freaking out. Suddenly, he is approached by Linda Bowman.
Yeah.
She approaches him with her gun already out, but it's not drawn until he points his gun at her.
Right, so. Because of course in reality it's Scully who's doing this, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a little bit of doubt with, oh, well, isn't it convenient that Scully's arrived, right, to be here for this big showdown? But the plot demands it, so I'm okay with it. But also, it does make sense that Linda would have arranged it because this is the big coup de grace, right? She needs Mulder to shoot Scully. And this is exactly what Scully is saying, and I'm okay with that. Wouldn't Scully have maybe brought all the cops?
No, not at all.
This is not how they roll.
She wanted this to be an intimate moment.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about this.
I bet you that
because she's a talker.
Yeah, because not going to go there. So,
so Linda is approaching Mulder, who is tending or freaking out over Scully's dead body.
Yep, cooling corpse.
She, the actress who is Linda, is saying all the things that Scully would be saying.
Mm-hmm.
She's pushing you. I am Scully. This is not happening. You're pointing your gun at a friend, essentially. And she starts rattling off, your sister's name is Samantha.
Yeah,
your mom's name is Tina. Anything that can hopefully snap Mulder out of whatever he's experiencing. And then suddenly Linda takes a shot past Mulder. It's a cool shot because we see Linda in the background. Mulder looks down at his feet where Scully was.
Mm-hmm.
And we see the camera turns back and it's Scully standing where Linda was.
It's a great...
So they did a nice little swap there.
And it's just practical. Like literally it's Linda and then she just walks off and Scully moves in the same pose.
Yep.
It's so simple and effective. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
I wish that it would have been a different resolution, because my question is, why have Scully doing all the anti-whammy stuff, right? Why not have her just shoot Linda as soon as she sees what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
But she's got to go through this whole moment of, I know, your sister's name is Samantha, your mom's name is Tina, blah, 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 blah. Oh, wait, I'm just going to shoot. We're done. It's like...
Well, Linda was on the ground, the actual Linda. She was playing the part of Scully.
I don't think she was, though. I think that...
I thought right before she shoots, you can see in the background behind... Like she's coming up, I think. Like out of focus, kind of like Alien. You see it in the background.
Yeah, okay.
Something's happening.
Yeah.
I think she's standing up because when...
Well, I don't think somebody does have to be laying there, though.
It
doesn't could all be in his mind.
Which could very well.
Goes back to the idea that you don't have to have somebody talking to activate this power. It can be just a projection of your mind.
That's where I think the episode falters a little bit. It's not that that's bad, because it's not a bad idea.
But choose your conceit and stick with it.
Yeah, because in Pusher, it was about talking, period. So, the wrap up, they're informing Skinner of all of the stuff.
Linda Bowman.
She has an advanced temporal lobe tumor, just like Modell's. It seems to run in the family.
She and Modell are related.
Fraternal twins.
He meant to protect his sister.
Apparently, she only found out about his existence 6 months ago. They were separated when they were 2 weeks old, raised apart. Her fox hunt. I'm guessing that she wanted revenge for what she feels we did to her brother.
Anything you want to add to that?
I think that covers it.
Mulder, a moment, please. I just wanted to say you did a good job.
How's that?
Now, nobody could have figured this out but you. You knew it was Linda Bowman and not Modell. You were way ahead of me.
I almost killed my partner.
Mulder, despite that, you prevailed. You won her game.
How come I feel like I lost?
And he leaves. Walkout number 4.
By the way, you're fired.
And fade out. The end.
So I will just say that I found this little plot nugget at the very end that she's the missing fraternal twin sister that came out of nowhere to exact revenge. I felt like, oh, okay. Sure.
Sure.
This probably would have ended just as well without us knowing that, but they feel like this is the thing they do with this episode sometimes. They have to wrap it up, and give it to us in a little bit of a plate so we can go, oh, that's why this all happened. Okay.
I think let's go into final thoughts because we're going to blow it here anyway.
Yeah, okay.
Andrew, what are your final thoughts?
I feel there is a great episode in here that could have been brought out if it was longer. They rush through a lot. They've got so much they want to do, and a lot of it is good, but it just happens so quickly, and it doesn't have enough time to develop. I feel like they could have made this a great two-parter. I think that moment where Modell comes into the safe house and they have that moment with him and Linda in the same room looking at each other, I thought that's where you fade to black and, to be continued. And then we come back. Because right up until that point, you don't know. You really don't know what's going on, And I think it would have been neat, and then we would have had it play out afterwards, the death of Modell, and there would have been much more time to develop Linda as a villain, as I kind of waxed on about there. I love that moment that they have in the hallway, where she's just able to turn the screw a bit more and really give it to him that, I know, and I know, and we're passing it past these other two right under their noses.
I know that I know.
Exactly. But we don't
call back to Friends.
But we don't get that. She essentially, she kills Modell, and then we have our end scene. And I just feel like there's more that could have been done there. They're really fascinating characters with a fascinating power, and it's just wrapped up all too quickly. It's good. It's not great. That's how I feel.
Good stuff. It's a good episode. It's fun. It's a little convoluted, though. The problem with this episode is it, like Andrew said, it's trying to cram so much into 45 minutes at the outset. It would have done better had it been 2 episodes or been, let's say a movie, for instance. With all the ideas they were trying to put forward here, they could have fleshed out the bad guy a lot better. Overall, again, I like the episode. I just think it's crammed a little too much, and they tried to do more than maybe was able to be explored in this episode.
You know what they did? They pushed too much into it.
They pushed too much. All in all, fun episode. It's always a pleasure to see Rob Wisden.
Mm-hmm.
He does a great job in this episode, despite having only a little bit of screen time, honestly.
Well, it's an opportunity for him to do something different, familiar but nuanced, which he's probably the most interesting part of the episode, really.
Mm-hmm. I like the bad guy. I just don't. My biggest problem with this episode is not that they packed so much into it. It's that her existence, to me, cheapens Modell.
Yeah.
Not that it actually cheapens him, but he's no longer as interesting. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's now 2 of them who do the exact same thing. So now it's like,
well,
I liked it when it was just Modell doing shit, and they could have explored that in a second episode for sure. Well, that is Kitsunegari.
I'm going to mesmerize you into thinking that this episode is over now. Listen to the sound of my voice. I want you to listen to me, listener. I suppose you have no choice but to listen to me.
Stop now. Stop talking.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at TINHXFilesPod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming. It's that time, everyone. The Magus Media Production sales pitch. Please check out our homepage at magusmediaproductions.net so you can stay up to date on all of our shows. Check out our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Magus Media Productions, both of which have our Discord link on it, where you can join us for live shows as we record them for future release. At Magus Media Prods on X, our Patreon, patreon.com/MagusMedia, where a $5 donation will help us keep the lights on and bringing you new content, and you get some stickers. Thank you for your consideration and support.